Hello, ladies, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Aisha, aka Nurse Aisha. I'm a registered nurse here to spread awareness on preventative health and lifestyle choices for women. That is my focus so you can lead a healthier life. So, if you like that type of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon so you don't miss an upload. All right, so as you can see on the title of this video, I'm going to take you through the process of how I became a registered nurse here in Sweden. So, just a disclaimer, if any of you are here to look for a way to get to Sweden to study to be a nurse, I have to say, please make sure that you put those questions in the description box. As for me, I'm raised here in Sweden, so I never really went through the process of looking for a visa or applying for any type of scholarships to come here in Sweden. I've been in Sweden since I was a child, so everything I know I did here. So no visa process, but I can definitely find out for you what you can do if you want to come and pursue nursing here in Sweden. All right, so let's get into my story of how I became a registered nurse here in Sweden. So, as I told you, I grew up here as a child. I came to Sweden as a child in 1992. So that's way back in the old days, in the 90s. All right, so what happened is that I studied all my schooling here. I started in grade 4 because I started in grade 4 because I was a bit younger when I came to Sweden, and I didn't directly go to school as we came here as refugees, me and my family. But when it was time for us to start school, I started in grade 4. It's a whole other story of my school, but I went to school for the 12 years that you go to school, and I graduated in, well, obviously not all the 12 years because I started in grade 4, but I then went to college and all of that, and then it was time to graduate from college. I graduated from college in 2002, and my journey started as an adult, obviously. But while I was in college, I was dreaming about traveling away. Traveling has always been a passion of mine. So I was dreaming about the USA, I was dreaming about London, I was dreaming about Australia. But what was closest to me was London. So prior to me graduating college, I had met some friends on a trip to my home country in Uganda, and they had invited me to come and stay with them in London. And I was so excited because at that time I was reading Marianne Keyes. For those of you that are familiar with the books of Marianne Keyes, she writes about the fabulous life in London, and it's so intriguing. I think I read by that time, I think I read The Last Chance or something like that. So obviously this was glamorized. I was so dreaming of London. This is not anywhere close to the reality, all right? Not that it was horrible, but it wasn't the reality of living in a big city for a girl like me, basically. All right, so I got invited. So directly the day after my graduation, I had booked a ticket to London because I wanted to live the village where I was living. I was living in a small village called Flean. Many of you don't even know where that is on a map. I barely do. But anyways, I wanted to get out of the village and go to the big city and experiment and just live. So I did that. I boarded a plane and met with my friends, and I was in London for 2 weeks, enough for them to convince me to come and stay. But I had to come back to Sweden, organize my stuff, organize myself, talk to my parents, where I was going, why I was going, all of that. So I ended up staying here in Sweden for like 9 months, got some work experience, and I got a job. It was actually hard to get a job directly after college, maybe because I hadn't really started the process of talking to any employers before when I was in college, because really didn't know what I wanted to do. Uh, because I had done a degree that wasn't really what I wanted to do. I did social studies with some extra languages. I did Spanish and French. So I wasn't really, and I also actually had a course on economics. I don't even know why I did that, because numbers is not my thing, but I ended up doing that. And yeah, well, it built me up, but I was really, really exhausted. I really didn't want to do anything else after. I didn't want to study, basically, after I was done with college. And I remember they were telling us to prepare for university. And I was like, no, I am not university material. Those were my words. Now I had to chew those up really quickly, because here I am. Yeah, so I was really, really tired. I think it was a lot of pressure for me. I put a lot of pressure on myself to actually go to college. Not only that, I didn't feel as though I was doing the work that I was supposed to do. A lot of performance anxiety, I guess. I wanted to do so much, but maybe didn't have the tools to do it, maybe not the support to do it. There was a lot into that, help with homework. And yeah, so I didn't have a structure, I didn't have a plan. So I guess my first um, my first plan, or my first attempt was, to get as far away from academia as I could. So I told my teachers, no, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to go to university. I just want to work and get through life. So I ended up on the streets of London, North London specifically. And I did, the minimum wage jobs. I looked for a job and I got a job as a cashier on Oxford Street. And it was not just me, there was a lot of other Swedish young adults that were doing this. So I met up with them. We had lots of fun, party, all of it. There was a lot of living to do. So I did that. And I think I did that for a year. The actual job as a cashier I did for 3 months. Then I was done. I was done, because as a person uh, living here in Sweden, I kind of put a lot of pressure on my employees, basically. My employers, sorry. The people that had employed me to work at that place. It was JD Sports, actually. Um, and I didn't agree, with the pressure that we're putting on us. They were working us really hard and not paying us enough. It was really, really expensive to live in London. So I didn't really, and I was lucky. I was one of the lucky ones. I was living for with my friends. So I wasn't really paying rent. What I did is I paid for gas. Um, that was the agreement that we had with my friends. Uh, Meanwhile, my Swedish friends had high rents they were paying, and they were living, like, so many of them, like three, four, five people in one apartment sharing. Yeah, so I had a really sweet agreement with my friends, and it was working out. But the job was not really, um, I wasn't really satisfied with my job. So I ended up quitting after 3 months, which was basically the timeline that you had to. After 3 months, then you went to a full time work kind of situation. And I wasn't really feeling the contract that I was presented with. And Also some extra things, that were happening, like I couldn't call in sick. I came from a Swedish background, so I knew my rights. Basically, if I call in sick, then I'm sick. But then I had a supervisor that called my house and questioned if I was sick, which to me was like, no, that's not right. I mean, you don't treat people like this. So I was not really happy with the job. So I ended up quitting the job and then came home to Sweden for the summer. And then I felt like, I had to see this through. Being that kind of person, I have a dream and I need to see it through. I wanted to see more of London. Yeah, so I went back and I did something that felt very natural to me. And this is still 2003 at this point, I believe. Yeah. So is it though? No, it's still 2002 because it's August, I think, at this point. So, anyways, stayed. I came back after the summer holidays and I looked for another job and it felt so natural to me. I went to the job applicant pages. I believe you could pick it up from the tube stations at that the newspapers where you could apply for jobs. I don't remember the name of the newspaper, but I remember picking it up and looking for jobs, and I saw a job of a nursing aide, and I went for the interview. I had done that a bit here in Sweden, the first job that I had for those 9 months that I came back. So I had some experience and I had references to back that up because I had done it here in Sweden. So yeah, that's how it started. So I started with a company that basically sent me out around the streets of London to work as a nursing aide. And it wasn't really like much. I went to people's houses. I would wash the dishes. I would help them maybe with their hygiene. Um, I could go shopping for them. So I did really small chores around the house, nothing attached to any medical supplies or uh, any work that had to do with medicine or medical um, chores. Is that what you call it? I didn't do anything like a assistant nurse or anything like that, give them medication or anything like that. I mainly did some washing. I did some um, cleaning. I would help them with their hygiene and shopping. That's almost all I did. Yeah, maybe some feeding. I think maybe I gave someone or cooked at least. I remember I did cook smaller um, meals. I could like boil potatoes or some soup or something like that. Yeah, so that's what I did, and I did that throughout the rest of the year. And I took a holiday in December to go back to this time I went for a visit in Uganda, and then I came back to London and I worked all throughout 2003. Yeah, so I got that experience but by the time uh, by the end of 2003, I was also kind of tired of these chores. I guess I was homesick a little bit. I was homesick, and I was also comparing very much the lifestyle in London, England, if you may, with my life here in Sweden and what it could be like, especially with my friends that were here. So there's a huge difference. I could not, however much I would maybe go in debt or whatever, to I could not rent an apartment. I couldn't. And this was also the reference I had was also my supervisor at work. My first job was then like around 30, which I thought was very old. He was around 30 years old and was still living with his parents. We all knew expensive to live in London, almost impossible to find your own place. Um, so, meanwhile, here in Sweden, my friends had contracts. They were renting their own places, and they had first-hand contracts. And not that it was easy, but they had, and those that um, maybe didn't have a place of their own, they were cohabiting with other friends, and not living at home with their parents, because that was, for me, you're an adult now, why would you live at home? Yeah, so that was my thinking. That was something that I wanted for myself, some freedom, obviously, because you're 18 and at least maybe now I was 19. So I wanted freedom. I wanted something for myself. I wanted to start. I wanted to start adulthood very quickly. Yeah. So I ended up leaving London in January 2004. Came back to Sweden in full blown winter season, but I was home. I had landed back home and I was ready to start my life here. So fast forward, I lived with some friends, I lived with some family before I got a place of my own, which I loved. Around August, I managed to get a contract and I started renting my own place and started working also. I started working almost immediately after I came back, but in 2004, I also got another job closer to home. So adulthood started, to say the least. And I worked with, you know, jobs as a nursing aide. I worked as personal assistant. I did, I guess that's what I did. I started basically my journey within healthcare and nursing, sort of, working with people at least. And I liked it. I really got a lot of experience and I felt confident in the job that I was doing. At this point, I had a lot of responsibility. So it wasn't doing dishes or cleaning someone's home or helping them cook. No, I was doing hardcore nursing aid work. I got familiar with administering medication. I started working with medical devices. I started working with tube feeding with the little boy that I was working with. So it was a lot. I was taught how to save his life, basically, to administer his medication in case he had a seizure. So all of that was a lot of responsibility, but I liked it. I kind of like got introduced into the healthcare work that I'll do later on. So I got very familiar with it. I got very good at it, and yeah, I felt confident in the job that I was doing, and I felt as though I was making a difference in someone's life. So that was basically my introduction into the field that I've gotten so comfortable with today. Yeah, so this is 2004, 2005, 6, around there. And something happened very drastically and dramatic in 2006. The little boy that I was taking care of passed on, of natural causes, and it was a very sad, because we had really got I had gotten really attached to him, and the family had really gotten attached to me. So it was very very sad, and yeah, so that chapter basically ended in 2006. And I had to get other clients at this point. I was given out to other clients. The company that I was working with gave me other chores with other companies. But for some reason, I felt strongly about continuing to learn more within the field of healthcare. So this is when I started applying to nursing. Um, yeah, so around 2005, 6, and 7, around there, I was applying. So I was applying to nursing school with my credentials from college, and I quickly realized that maybe this wasn't enough. So I what I did is what you can do, or what I did, and what a lot of people do is you can take an exam, högskoleprovet, or a university exam, it's called here, and basically it's a series of questions and exam in English, mathematics, social sciences. I believe there's some cultural connective tests. There's a lot of questions all in one, basically testing your knowledge, your overall knowledge in society, I guess, as well as academically. It's kind of a hard test for a lot of people and for me. But that when after I did that, I think I did that twice, and it kind of got my credentials a bit high. But at the time when I was also applying, there was also the experience. Apart from the exam, the university exam, you can also apply using your experience. So your experience also adds up. So it's not only your university, your college credentials, but you also have the university exam if you have that. And then there's also the experience, your work experience basically can also be added to your credentials. So at this point, I had all three. I had the work experience, I had the college credentials, and then also the university exam that I had done. So I had really good credentials to apply to university. And at this point, I had decided in a bachelor in science of nursing. Uh, but because I had an apartment in Stockholm, I didn't want to leave the city. I loved living in the city, and I didn't want to go anywhere else. And I thought, there were so many schools here. There's, the Karolinska, there's so many universities around here in Stockholm. So I thought naturally, why not? So I applied, and I guess that is what held me back for so long, because there's so many people that want to come to the city from other smaller cities and villages and all of that. So there's a lot of competition basically in the big city. And I was very certain, being that I have my home here and I have everything here, not that they ask you for that, but still I thought, yeah, I would get in. But I didn't. I kept on being put very down on the list as a reserve, and nothing really happened for 2, 3 years, until a friend of mine recommended me to apply for schools outside of the city. And she specifically recommended a city that she visits every summer. And I was like, I am not ready to leave the city, but okay, I'll give it a try. So I did. I gave it a try, and I actually applied for 2 schools at this point. This is in August 2007. I applied for 2 schools outside of the city. One not far from Stockholm, also closer to the place where I grew up, and then one all the way up north, the one that she had recommended in Sundsvall. And just a long story short, I ended up being accepted to study at Mid University in Sundsvall, way up north in Sweden. I had never been. Oh my God. the coldest place ever. So, 2008 January, I believe it was the 19th of January. And the reason I remember is because that's the date that I started, 19th or 20th. But I remember that 2007, December 2007, I went for a trip to Uganda. And the very day that I came back with my suitcases in the hallway, I got a letter in my letterbox. And it was a letter telling me that I was accepted. And I believe this was around the 12th of January. And I panicked. I basically panicked. I was like, what? So, what am I supposed to do? And school starts in like a week. So, that means I have to pack my bags again. I have to find someone to sublet my apartment to. And I have to move all at once. And I don't even have any textbooks. I have nothing. So, but I was waiting for this. I had also another thing. I was working. I was employed full time. So I had a contract. Um, and according to this contract, you have to tell them 3 months. You have to hand in your resignation 3 months before you actually leave, or you can apply for um, you can apply for what's it called? You can apply for studying. You can leave your job to go study, but you have to do it. You have to apply for it at least a month before. I believe those were the rules. A month or 3 months before, and also because they have to find someone to replace you. So this was all happening too fast, but I was ready. I was ready. So the first thing I did was call the university and yeah, ask them, just confirm that I was accepted, and also what was required of me, and when everything is going to start, when I need all of that, and also try to find a place to stay because they offered accommodation for students, but I didn't know to what extent and how quickly I could get accommodation. That is the start of my amazing journey as a nurse here in Sweden. So amazing. Yeah, so I quickly gather myself and start packing. I think the first, well, after calling my job, no, after calling my university and getting everything in order, the second thing I did was call my workplace. Now, that wasn't as smooth as, the university call that I made. My boss, my then boss, she said, no, we cannot accept that. And the reason we cannot accept it is because you have not notified us in time, which I could understand. But I had applied for so long, so I didn't know if I was going to get accepted to any university. So I was nervous. I was unsure. I wasn't confident in that. So after a lot of doors being shut and all the no's that I had gotten prior to that. So can understand. Um, but she said no, so I had to put up a fight, basically. Uh, I asked to know my rights. I called a few people asking, what I can do. I cannot be forced to work. That much I knew. I cannot go to work if, I don't want to. I cannot. I want to study. It's my right to educate myself. That's basically what I told my boss. I want to educate myself and you can't stop me. So I think I made a phone call to then the union that I was part of and asked what I could do. I don't really remember exactly what I did, but yeah, so I think the only option that was left was to resign immediately, and which basically meant that I had, because I was on schedule like the next day or something like that. And I don't remember if I actually worked that week. Um, but, anyways, I remember resigning, going into the office, asking the boss where the papers, I need to sign them. I'm going. Okay. So I guess I was a young lady on a mission and determination to empower myself, get educated, and just move on with my life. And I did that also in, um, I did that very confidently because I knew that I couldn't do the job that I was doing for the rest of my life. I was tired. I was not feeling stimulated. Um, I wasn't basically not motivated to do the job that I was doing then. So I stood my ground, and I went up north to get my education. All right, so my journey started in January 2008 in Sundsvall, mid university, and I was excited, to say the least. I was scared, but excited. I was scared, but I had a goal and I had a plan. I was scared, but I had the will. I was scared, but I was just on a mission, and nothing could have stopped me from getting this big achievement that I had put my mind to. And remember, I had waited for quite a while. I had waited for a while to get this. So, yeah. So, stay tuned for part two of my journey becoming a registered nurse here in Sweden.